What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, and this is my poker vlog. Today we're playing a 5-5 no-limit cash game session at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas. I'm going to buy in the game for $5,000. Wish me luck. This is for entertainment only. I am not a professional poker player. I'm not trying to be a poker coach. I'm trying to share the fun of the games to play in. Enjoy the action. What's up, everybody? It is Vlog Friday, and we've got a new session here. This hand starts with a $40 raise on my right from Albert. I decided to call with ace-10 suited. Get a call from Todd over there. We're gonna go 4 ways to the flop. And I flop an ace on ace-7-6 with the ace-7 of diamonds, 6 of hearts. So the players check over to me and I bet 100. Get a call from Todd and now we're heads up. Turn is a 3 of clubs. It's a pretty safe card. Gonna definitely value bet this. Sizing could be anywhere from half pot to 3. What's Todd doing? He just led right into me. He bets 225. A lot of times you see this as someone is kind of blocker betting or setting the price to draw to a flush and they're worried that you're gonna bomb it if you're the kind of player to do that. The only issue I have here is 4-5 actually gets there. I'm just gonna call. I don't wanna make a huge pot just yet. Oh, the river's a 10. It does get the flush there, but that gives me 2 pair. So if he decided to slow play something like ace-7, or he turned 2 pair with ace-3, I now have the best hand. If he really was blocker betting that turn with a flush draw, I think he would just bet the river. So I'm gonna value bet. I bet $400. Todd hems and haws. He says, man, everything got there in the river, but he does call. And he shows a set of 6s? What took so long? With a $20 button straddle and a couple of limpers, I look down at pocket queens. I raise it up to 100. The button calls, small blind calls, under the gun calls, 4 players to the flop. Flop is 8-7-6 with 2 spades. This is not a good flop for pocket queens. I don't even have the queen of spades. When it checks to me, I'm just gonna check. I don't wanna build a big pot on, what is this guy's? People just leading out into me. Like it's totally normal, I guess. I do think a lead on this board, the range is going to be so strong that even if I'm not beaten now, he's got a lot of equity against me. I did decide to fold pocket queens, and as soon as the button made it 1100 to go, I felt a lot better about my decision. Now I can just sit back and watch these two battle it out. Let's see what happens. Oh, the original leader just folds pocket 10s. I had pocket 10s beat. The other player shows a 10. I think that means he had 9-10. I like my fold. After a rough start to the session, I was down 3,500. I went ahead and added on 4K, and now that I look at pocket aces, I'm pretty happy that I did. Now I did add on between the last few hands, and I did lose a little bit. So starting this hand, I've got right around $4,000. So I make it 150 with pocket aces over the $50 button straddle. We go 3 ways to the flop. Flop is king, queen, 4. It's a little bit of a scary flop because king, queen is a pretty strong hand that people would play, and that hand has me in bad shape, but I do have to see bet. I bet $300. The first player folds and we get heads up, and this guy's reaching for chips and making a stack. He raises to $800. Almost a 3x raise, and at this point in the hand, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm just gonna have to call, and then call, and then call, and if he has king, queen, he's just gonna win a ton of money. This kind of sucks when you have aces because your hand is just so strong you know you can't fold. I make the call. Turn is a 3, changes nothing. Got a dish check here. Hope he doesn't bet too much, an amount that I can call. He bets $900. That's not too bad. I still have an overpair. I can beat ace king. I can beat ace queen. There's really not a lot of hands I can beat, but man, I just can't fold yet. I call $900. And you know what I say about overpairs. You can always pair the bottom card and suck out on a bigger 2 pair. It is still possible that he flopped a set. I check over to him. Let's see what he does.
All in.
He's all in. I can't fold.
Call. Good call.
Oh, he said good call. He shows pocket 9s? He was just trying to bluff me the whole time? See, this is why I can never fold a good hand in these games. People are just trying to bluff me all the time. I have not jumped forward at all in the video. This is the very next hand. I have pocket jacks on the button. I had a $50 straddle with one caller, and then Albert made it 150 in the cutoff. I re-raised to 450. Let's listen to me and Albert talk this one out. There's at least a 30% chance that I have 4-7 suited. But it's not any higher than that.
What if I made it 1175?
Since we started doing that, I just want to point out, since we started doing that, you have never once actually had a bluff when you did that, even though that was supposed to be a bluff amount. And every time I still call, because it's like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. It's like a bluff. And then you're just like, no, I have the nuts. Every time. Every time.
What's he got? What's he got?
4-7, I told you.
Oh, you had 4-7?
Yeah.
Oh, good hand.
Rayo has a 50 when he uses
I couldn't do anything, I had 4-7. Nice hand. Back to back, somebody had aces. It was the exact same aces. Did she even shuffle? Oh yeah, there she is. I'm putting videos out every Friday. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon to get notifications. Please remember to like and comment as well. With a $25 button straddle, we've got two limpers and I look down at ace king. I raise it up to 100. The button's gonna call, small blind calls, and the big blind calls. We're going 4 ways to the flop. Maybe I need to make these raises bigger. I flop a king on king, queen, 9, 2 spades. This is a pretty scary board. Someone could have already flopped it with jack 10. There are straight draws and flush draws galore. It's kind of funny though, I have ace king on this flop, and when I had aces on the other board with king queen, I was way more worried that he could have king queen than I was during this hand. But of course that's because he raised me, but also because I know I can get away from ace king if I have to on this board where I could never have gotten away from aces. Well, they all fold and I take this one down. Speaking of king queen, I'm in the small blind with a button straddle of 50. I raise up king queen suited in the small blind of 150. It's gonna fold all the way around to Albert on the button. Albert's gonna call. The flop is ace jack 7 rainbow, so I have a gut shot, a backdoor flush draw, and sometimes my king or queen pairs would be good. I decide to c-bet 150. This is just your typical close your eyes c-bet. You're hoping he folds 2 random cards or a small pair, but he does call. So on the turn, I'm gonna continue on any 10, club, or maybe a king or queen. But I turn to 6, this is not a good card for me. I haven't picked up any more equity. I should just check this turn card and be ready to fold if Albert bets. But in real life, it looks like I'm betting.
Freeway.
Can't believe you don't want to check your
They had
friend.
a kid that was in a high chair, right? Kid that was in a high chair was at the end of the table, right here.
I can't check, huh?
There's the mother, the father, the little boy, the little...
This hand, I straddled $10 under the gun. The middle position player makes it 50. He gets a caller. Feels like every one of these hands just goes to the flop four-handed. Sure enough, I'm in the big blind. It's only 40 bucks more. I have ace jack offsuit and we're gonna go four-handed to the flop. The flop is 8-5-5 with 2 hearts, so I completely miss. I check, and now the pre-flop raiser checks, and the player next to him bets. Now this player has a capped range, and what that means is he can't have aces, kings, and queens, because all he did was call the raise pre-flop. Now it's still possible he could have a hand like pocket 8s or pocket 5s or ace 5 and I'd be in really bad shape. But it's just so rare to have those hands. And with having ace jack, I know this guy doesn't have queens up through aces. I could hit an ace or a jack, running hearts. I have a lot of ways I could win this hand against his range where I might not want to play this hand against the pre-flop raiser. The best way to play this hand if I was going to continue would actually be to check raise, but now that we have a guy who's called in between, I chicken out and I decide just to check call and let's see the turn card. The turn is a 6 of hearts, so I pick up a flush draw. It does put some straights out there, but those were gut shots. But a hand like 6-5 now is a full house and I'd be in bad shape. But I did call to turn a card like this, so when he bets 300 and the other player folds, I'm gonna call and see a river. The river's the ace of diamonds. I river an ace. I could lead on this card, but with the paired board and straight, I decide just to check this one time. I show my hand and he shows 8-7. We got him on the river. I put the under the gun $10 straddle on in this hand. The middle position player makes it 75 and the cutoff calls. It folds around to me and I have Jack 10 offsuit. I'm closing the action, so I decide to call $75 to see a flop. The flop is 9-7-8. I flopped the nuts. This never happens to me. So I check. I'm gonna check to the pre-flop raiser. There's no reason to lead out here, although there are 2 clubs on board. The pre-flop raiser checks, but the player next to him decides to bet 150. I'm gonna go ahead and check raise. I make it 475. I wanna build a pot, and I also wanna protect against times when he has clubs. I have to charge him to draw. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, and it puts 4 cards to the straight out there. This is not the pre-flop raiser we're playing against, so he actually might be weighted more towards having some 6s in his hand. I decide to go ahead and bet again, betting 750. I expect him to call with all his flush draws and some of his hands like pocket 10s or pocket jacks that have a straight draw, but he folds. This hand has the 10, 20, and I put the $40 straddle on, and the button raises to $120. Folds around to me in the triple straddle, and I look down at pocket f***ing aces. Now, even though we're already heads up, I'm gonna go ahead and raise, get a little bit more money in this pot, start taking the aggressive action now so that I can choose the pot size. He's gonna call, we're going to the flop. I've got 2 red aces. The flop is 10-9-3 rainbow. That's a pretty safe flop. I'm gonna go ahead and c-bet. I don't have to bet a lot here. I bet 300 into 700. There are only a few draws out there. And he just raised me again? Didn't this already happen? Now I'm actually way less worried about this flop, even though actually it's way easier for him to have a set than it was on the last one. And maybe I should be concerned because he shouldn't be doing this twice as a bluff. So I call and I check this turn card, the 6, makes 7-8 get there, but other than that, it doesn't change a whole lot. He checks behind, so maybe he doesn't have a set. The river pairs a 3, so you know what I say about over pairs, although I actually don't think this guy had 2 pair. But I'm gonna be betting this river. The only hands I'm really worried about is a hand like pocket 9s that he checked the turn for deception, or maybe he did raise with 7-8 and just decided to check, but I'm gonna value bet this. He can still have a hand like pocket jacks or ace 10 that will call. I'm actually gonna take a little bit of time to think about my sizing. There's 1900 in the pot. I want it to look a little bit bluffy. I bet 1300 and he snap calls. I show him my aces. He starts to show, but he ends up just mucking his cards, and we got him again. The button has a $25 straddle on, and I've got ace king. Albert raises to $75 on my right, and I don't respect Albert's raises, so I make it $225. The straddle folds. All the little kids are putting their cards in the muck, and the big boys are gonna play a pot. Albert's not folding ever to my 3-bet. The flop is ace, ace, jack with 2 clubs. I flop trip aces with the best kicker. Albert checks. I'm gonna c-bet. I bet $300. I can rep a lot of draws. He knows I'm gonna bet with an ace and some pocket pairs, so he may continue with any ace. He calls. The turn is the king of clubs. What a card, oh my God. If he has a flush, he's drawing dead. If he has any other ace, he's drawing dead. The only hand that we could possibly lose to is queen 10 of clubs. And if he has the royal, he's just gonna get all the money, and he leads out into me, 575. But I don't wanna tip him off just yet. I think I'm just gonna call. I call 575. I think the only river card I don't want to see is an ace or a king. The river's a 7 of clubs. This really shouldn't matter that much. It's hard for me to have a flush in this scenario. I'd have to basically have pocket queens that bet on an ace, ace, jack flop. So Albert checks, and I think I can go for value in this spot. There's 2,200 in the pot, and I bomb it. I bet 1,800. When the board supports having a wide range of hands for both players, in this scenario we got flushes, full houses, and straights, you want to bet pretty big for value. He can have a ton of different value hands, as can you, so he might actually pay you off even if his hand isn't the nuts. But he does fold, and I take down a pretty big pot. I straddle 50 on my button. We've got a raise to 175 from a middle position player and a call from a middle position player. And I look down at another big pair, pocket kings. Is this God mode 2? Well, I'm gonna raise it up. There's 400 in the pot already. I make it 750 to go. It's kind of a big bet. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but I've been raising so much in this game. Maybe these guys will just get tired of it and think he can't have aces every hand.
750.
Because I love you and I respect you, and I see you have aces twice, I'm gonna give you my money.
He just puts me on aces and folds queens face up.
Holy
I
shit.
folded jacks.
Oh my god, you guys are so good.
Let's get flop.
I would never fold queens together.
I know, right? Oh! In this hand, we have our infamous $160 quintuple straddle going on. There's a raise from the button to 450. I look down at pocket tens under the gun. The player has about 2,200, and I'm actually willing to flip for this, and I might even be ahead big time. I'm just gonna re-raise, man. We're going for it. We're gonna try to win $2,000. I make it big. I don't want there to be any scenario where he just flats me. I make it 16-10 to go. Folds around to the guy that made it 450. He's in the tank for quite a long time. You can see how many shuffles I get in during this time. And he folds, and I take down 770 pre-flop. We've got 3 more hands left in this vlog, and I'm gonna get pocket kings 2 more times. Stick around. Well, after messing around a little bit with those pocket tens, I'm just gonna go back to my old trusty pocket kings. I really am starting to believe that thing about me being the luckiest player people know. Well, there's a raise to 225. Remember last time when it was a raise to 175 with a call and I made it like 750 and got no action? Well, I learned my lesson. I'm gonna make it 600 here. Now it's only 375 to call. I think I can get action from this guy. He doesn't have to have a super top premium hand, but he's probably gonna call with hands like ace king, ace queen, probably tens and jacks and queens. And the flop is queen, 7-6, queen of spades, 7-6 of diamonds. So again, if he has pocket queens, we're in really bad shape, but he can still have ace king and ace queen, even king queen. He might even continue with a hand like pocket jacks, but I'm gonna bet pretty small here. I bet 400 because there aren't a ton of draws other than the flush draw that he's likely to have. So I bet about third pot. I have an overpair. Let's see if he calls. He does call. We're going to the turn. The turn is the jack of hearts. I'm glad it's not a diamond, but now if he did decide to call one time with pocket jacks, he's got a set. I think a lot of people would look at this board and see that the 2 pairs right below their pair have now come on the board, and they would probably check this turn card. But I do think this guy's got enough queens to value bet. He can have king, queen, and ace, queen, and he can still have ace, king. Remember now, he turned a gut shot draw, and he could have any of those diamond hands that we can get value from. He calls, and the river is a 7. Man, how does the board pair one of the bottom cards every time I have an overpair? Well, I don't really think this guy's very likely to have queen jack, so I don't think I sucked out on 2 pair. He does check, and now I gotta decide. Is he just calling me down with queens and he's gonna win a huge pot? Did he turn a set of jacks? Or can I value bet against ace queen or king queen? What do you guys think? Should I bet this river? Well, I'm going to. I bet $1,100. He's in the tank, which is a good sign. He doesn't actually look that confident. I don't think I'm getting raised. The question is, can he call? And the fact that he's tanking for so long with a range that seems like it has a queen in it means this might be a river card that I shouldn't bet, because maybe I'm only ever getting called when I'm actually beat. We have an under the gun $20 straddle, and a player makes it 120 to go. It's kind of a big raise, but it's not crazy in this game when you're out of position to think maybe you'll make it a little bit bigger. The button decides to call, and this isn't pocket kings, but I'm definitely going to be seeing a flop with pocket jacks, and you know what? I'm going to keep my foot on the gas. I'm going to re-raise to $400. It folds around to the pre-flop initial raiser, and he's got a decision to make. He actually re-raises to $11.75. Now let me explain this. This started as a joke one night. My friend Sung bet $11.75 and it was a bluff. And then Albert started betting $11.75 and I started betting $11.75, and we just continued it for months now. But as I mentioned earlier, it's mostly not done as a joke anymore. And now this is a new player betting this amount and I have no idea what this means. But I decided to call. I'm really hoping to hit a jack on this flop. Brick. Flop is 9-4 deuce. This flop might actually keep me around. I'm gonna see what he bets. I'm expecting him to bomb it, but he only bets 600. I guess that makes sense. This was a 4-bet pot pre-flop. Most players would down bet in this spot. It's a pretty good price. I'm a little worried if I call here, I'm just calling every small card on the turn and river, but I did decide to call $600 and see a turn card. That's a jack! Is this even fair? Is this even fair? I guess I don't really care. I check. Let's see what he does. I cannot believe I just turned top set. If he has aces or kings or even queens, I'm gonna win a huge pot. Holy cow, he just bet $1,600. The down bets are over. He's going chunky. I've got to decide what to do. I count his stack and my stack. I've got about $6,000 and so does he. And I put it all in the middle. I don't see any other size I can raise to. I can't just call. There's now 2 flush draws on board. Plus, I can't predict if an ace or king comes and might kill my action if he had queens. If the ace comes and he has kings, I want to get the money in now if he does have an overpair. And he goes in the tank and shows ace king of spades. So he has what he sees as 2 overs and a flush draw, but only 1 card to come. He knows I'm not putting all this money in with some weak 1 pair hand. He's actually probably worried that I have a very strong hand and his flush might be his only outs, and he does decide to fold. I win a $5K pot. I put the triple straddle on of $40, get a bunch of limpers. And now one of the straddlers makes it 330 and oh, hello again, I have kings. I almost feel like this 330 raise over all these limps is either a really strong hand or a really weak hand. Maybe not really weak, but a hand like ace jack or ace queen suited that knows it's never gonna play a pot, just wants to take this down pre-flop. But if he's got jacks or queens, maybe we can go for it. So I make a raise to 840. Let's see what he does. He gets out of the way. Good fold. Well, I originally bought in the game for $5,000. I added on 4K after getting stuck about 3,500, and I ran it up. I actually got it pretty big. I got it up to, was it 17? No, not that high. About 15,000, and I just cashing out to 13.6K. Is that right? So after buying into the game for $5,000, got stuck a little bit. Lost about 3,500 and added on 4K, which ended up being profitable because now I'm cashing out $13,600. So basically a $4,600 win. I ran it up a little bit higher than that. I think I had about 15 to 16,000 at one point. Maybe it wasn't quite that high, I don't really remember, but I know I was up pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with how things worked out. I wasn't sure about adding on that 4K. I'm glad I did. It worked out for me. Thanks for watching, and please click subscribe. You can get notifications or at least see me in your feed every time I release a video. I really appreciate it. Please hit like on the video and share it with all your friends.